They sent her into the dead zone, expecting silence. Instead, they heard footsteps and realized she wasn't alone. By the time they understood who she truly was, it was already too late to stop what was coming. The sun beat down on the abandoned training compound, turning the dust into a shimmering haze. SEAL Team Echo stood in a tense semicircle, their eyes fixed on the woman walking toward the rust-eaten gate. Lieutenant Mara Hale, quiet, steady, barely acknowledged among them, was being sent into the dead zone. No backup, no comms. Just a test she hadn't asked for, a test she didn't deserve. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. The dead zone wasn't haunted in the supernatural sense, but it held the ghosts of operations that had gone wrong. Booby traps, collapsed hallways, shadows that played tricks on the most disciplined minds. Most soldiers never crossed its threshold alone. But Mara didn't argue when Commander Rourke picked her. She simply nodded, her hand tightening briefly around the strap of her canteen, as if touching a memory no one else could see. Inside, the air was strangely warm, thick enough to cling to her skin. Sunlight spilled through broken panels in sharp, blinding angles. She moved quietly, listening for the smallest shift. A pebble rolled somewhere behind her. She froze. Someone else is here. She wasn't wrong. Outside, the SEALs watched through distant binoculars, their chatter low and uneasy. A couple of neighbors from the nearby village had wandered to the fence, shading their eyes from the bright daylight, whispering questions. Even they sensed it, the tension tightening like a rope across the compound. Inside, Mara stepped deeper, brushing past tall weeds that swayed though there was no wind. She saw the first tripwire, then the second. Footprints. Fresh, larger than hers, moving in a circle, as if someone had been waiting. She swallowed. This wasn't part of the test. This is something else. A metal clang rang out behind her. She spun. A figure lunged from the shadows. A deserter rumored to have vanished months ago. A man the teams had quietly given up on. His eyes were frantic, his uniform torn, his hands trembling as if caught between fear and desperation. "You shouldn't have come," he warned, stepping forward. "They sent you to fail, to break." Mara held her ground, heart thundering, but hands steady. "Then why are you hiding here?" He hesitated, the sunlight flickering across his scarred face. "Because this place doesn't test strength. It tests what's left of you after everything else is gone." Outside, soldiers shifted uneasily. One muttered, "She should have been back by now." Another clenched his jaw. Even the villagers felt the shift, a mother pulling her son closer as the air thickened. Inside, the deserter charged, not toward her, but toward the entrance behind her, trying to escape. Instinct took over. Mara blocked him, forcing him back into the center of the yard where the daylight fell brightest. He collapsed to his knees, defeated not by her strength, but by his own exhaustion. "You don't have to run," she whispered. "But you have to face what you left behind." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he lowered his head. When Mara finally stepped out of the dead zone, she wasn't alone. The deserter walked behind her, hands raised, eyes hollow but strangely peaceful. The SEAL team stared, stunned. They had expected her to crawl out barely breathing, if she survived at all. Instead, she emerged steady, dust-coated, and impossibly calm. A villager murmured, "She walked into danger alone, and brought someone back." The soldiers surged forward in formation, moving like a wave around the pair. Sunlight glinted off their gear, as they took the deserter into custody, gentle, respectful, something almost tender in the way they didn't force him to the ground. Rourke met Mara's eyes. For the first time, his voice softened. "Hale, that wasn't the test." "I know," she replied quietly. "But someone was lost in there. Leaving him wasn't an option. Because courage isn't loud, it shows itself when no one's watching. And sometimes, the truth that saves us begins in the very place we fear to enter." If you enjoyed this story, tell me your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales like this.